Danger, danger, danger. Hey, this is Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. Center frame is a tree that I've been taking reference photos of because obviously we're having some problems with trees. Now we're going to do a big project here, which you can be a part of, which is going to be excavation to build a earthen retaining wall to replace that old retaining wall here. But we're having trouble getting trees taken down. As you can see, the one in the middle of the frame, I've referenced it off of this the tree in the foreground. But the point is that tree is leaning, that tree is moving, and that tree is going to come down here in the winds today. I would have liked to have it cut down, and hopefully it heads for the woods. But this is just one of the many challenges when you have older growth woods around your home. I know these majestic trees are desirable. There's another one middle of frame there that's leaning quite a bit more. And again, I've come out and I've measured the lean and the angle of the tree, and I know these things can happen. This is part of your land maintenance, and it's part of something that you want to make sure you're ahead of. Now, unfortunately here, I'm not ahead of it. Looks like somebody's throwing brush in here. I'm not ahead of it in the sense of getting contractors out. We have a lot of challenges getting contractors out. So what I've done is I've hired a forestry company to come in and just remove all the trees off the property, and an excavation company to come in and regrade everything so that we can have level terraces to reduce the erosion. One of the reasons these trees fall over is because of the amount of erosion that we have. I can show other videos of this hole originally, but you'll see it's starting to fill. I'm going to lose my compost if I don't pull that off there, but it's starting to fill. We have other trees down here that have rotted out. We have big stumps down that way. We have over there, you can see a tree that has fallen. But this is an ongoing problem in this kind of area. Here in Martinsville, Virginia, we have a lot of rain, about 44 inches of rain a year. And what happens is you end up with a lot of erosion, a lot of trees falling over. So what do? Well, you can have the trees cut down, but look at this beautiful tree center of frame here. I would much rather know that tree turned into tables, chairs, and other furniture. And that's what this original forest was planted for. It is all hardwoods. There's maybe one pine tree, and I think it's the one in my front yard. But the point I'm making here is without proper management, these things just go to waste. So what we've done in this area here is we've terraced out. Now we've had a lot of winter storms, so we have lost some bamboo. We've lost some additional trees further back, but you terrace out the space so that you have level contours to spread and slow out the water. I'm going to take a video here probably this afternoon of a spring that's kicked up down at the bottom of the hill here, where there's flowing water almost year round. That is a result of slowing the water down and soaking it into the ground, rather than when we first move in, what used to be just a drain. It was just all the leaves were washed away every time it rained. There's a couple of factors there is we used brush dams. We've used other control mechanisms, because you can see when a tree falls down, it'll start channeling around the edges of the trees. Now I can go into a lot more detail about this, and we do in a special program on how to manage your woods. Now you might think woods just grow, but whether you're in a backed up to a forest on a farm situation, or you're in an urban space, there's actually 40 acres of woods behind here in Forest Park, Martinsville, Virginia. These woods need to be managed, and in fact they were managed years ago, and it was common practice on how to manage forests, because they are valuable sources of resource, a valuable source of wood, materials. In fact, there's deer back there. There's a lot of wildlife. It's part of the ecosystem of your neighborhood. Now I can see another one that I need to check measures on, because the top has kind of got knocked out. Now again, forests go through cycles. A young forest is very vigorous. It's consuming a lot of carbon dioxide. It's making a lot of carbon in the ground, storing a lot of carbon in the ground. But as the forests get older and the trees get bigger, they get slower. The growth is slower. The carbon dioxide absorption is slower. This big tree center frame, as tall as it is, you got to imagine a tree as a pump. It's got to pull water up from the ground and take it all the way to the top of this tree. It has to overcome gravity. Now, different trees have different heights. So these oaks and things are only going to get so tall. It's not like a redwood, where a redwood would get, 50 feet across. These trees will not grow forever. That's not the type of tree they are. So they have to be periodically cut out and replaced. Now, you can do select cuts. You can do what a lot of cities will do, is just manage it. And that means they'll keep just dropping the trees in the woods, and they'll accept a certain number of trees falling across power lines. But the best way to do it is to clear a perimeter around your home, and we'll talk about that in the land management program, and at least have a safety perimeter when it comes to trees falling. You do not want trees falling on your sheds, on your house. We actually had one on the house, the eco house here. You want to be able to access retaining walls. That retaining wall down there would be $100,000 to remove if I didn't own the property next door, if I didn't have the willingness to cut the trees down, because they'd have to use a crane to lift the materials over the house. That's, I've had two people out look at it, or they'd have to have laborers carry the materials down the hill. Now there are ways of handling it. They can put a slide and slide all the materials down the hill, but then we're looking at additional costs. We're looking at damaged materials. We're looking at just 30 people on a job. I can't even get 2 contractors out, a handyman out here to fix a window. How am I going to get 30 people on a job site to carry materials down? And of course, that $100,000 job is now $50,000 since I purchased the house next door. And you might be saying, well, Justin, you bought a whole house. Well, if it's going to cost me $100,000 to replace the retaining wall, and I bought a house for $20,000, and I've had renters in it who've pretty much covered the month-to-month costs, then I'm actually ahead of the game, because if that retaining wall goes, it weakens the structure and foundation of this house. It impacts a $100,000 to $200,000 piece of asset. Actually, your home is not an asset, but the replacement cost, the insurance isn't going to cover if I neglect to repair the retaining wall. But another point in fact here is that retaining wall, once it's properly replaced, will need very little maintenance, because the engineers and the study into what's going on here, the design, which we're going to cover completely in the land management program, we have the right elevation and space behind the house to do an earth erosion stable wall that would require much less maintenance over time. In fact, once every other year, there's just a few steps to take to make the wall last pretty much for generations. And the key too is that we're going to get much more usable space. But if you don't manage these things, you end up with trees on your shed, trees on your home, and such a mess. The big trees next door fell over and ripped the neighbor's chimney off, and that's not a good place to be in. But anyway, we have a land management plan program that goes through step-by-steps. I show you the actual plan and develop of this particular property. You'll get to follow through the whole process from start to finish. You're going to see what is necessary to manage large land projects. Now the example, just heard another tree go. The example I'm providing is here in Martinsville, Virginia. You can actually come out and visit the site, but more importantly is that I'm going to be your eyes on the ground. You're going to sit in the planning sessions. You'll see all the project management necessary, and you'll feel confident that you could manage large land projects. We go from $100,000 to about $25,000 to $50,000, and that $25,000 to $50,000 will include clearing the whole wooded space. We're going silver pasture back here. We may not be allowed to have any We're definitely not going to be allowed to have any grazing animals, but I do have arrangements with several farms to bring animals through periodically for demonstration purposes, of course, and to show you how this works at scale. Now we're doing a prototype model. Okay, so we're going to do a 2-acre model, which then after it is complete, will turn into a 20 to 40 acre model after we get the surveys back for the larger spaces that we're looking at. The key here is that you need to know how to do this kind of thing, because whether you're living in an urban space on an estate lot with 1 or 2 acres, or you're living on 100 acres, there are going to be projects that need to be done right the first time. Think about lake, you're putting in a pond or a lake, you're putting in erosion or terraces, you're establishing your field. I know a couple farms here that didn't establish their fields correctly, and they have constant washout. Imagine planting a crop and then having a washout and losing the entire crop that you've planted. That happens very often, and it can be prevented with erosion control techniques that you can learn in our program. Plus, you're going to learn how to manage a larger project, and you're going to learn how to install larger systems, even if you don't have the individual skills to do the work, because we're going to learn about managing contractors as well. Another point, this is perfect for the permaculture design consultant. This is perfect for the landscaper that wants to level up. And this is perfect for an excavation company who wants to have better cooperation from their clients. And in fact, it opens the door to larger, more it's better to be on site for a week and a half or 2 weeks than it is to have to be in and out in a day or two. The point I'm making here is that managing large projects is a skill that can be learned and delivers massive value to you, your business, and even if you're just a homesteader or you own a large farm or a medium-sized farm or a small farm, these are valuable resources for you. Anyway, I'm going to stop yammering. If you want more information, there's a link below. But these videos are often just taken as reference videos so that I can tell which trees need to be cut down. And they're often taken just to help my clients understand how easy it can be to manage large land. It is a lost skill. Just imagine Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, with what would be today equivalent of a high school education, were managing huge tracts of land on paper. Well, today it's even easier. It's even faster. And if you have the skills, you can do this at a scale that allows you to do the things that you want to do. Actually, we're going to put greenhouses on this other property over here. But the bottom line is, I'll answer questions. How do you fund your project? How do you plan your project? What kind of risks do you need to consider? How do you handle permitting? How do you manage the vendors to make sure you have the right vendors who will actually show up? How do you be sure to keep the project moving forward at all times? How do you plan the project on paper so that you can trial multiple designs? What kind of permaculture techniques and land management techniques need to be considered so that you have a stable creation, so that you don't have to constantly fix the damn thing after you're done? They put a railroad tie retaining wall down there that, after 5 years, those walls improperly installed are useless. It may or may, the structural engineer told me that it may or may not be holding back that wall, but it's basically just keeping the erosion down. So I've kept the bamboo, even though the bamboo is kind of a pain in the ass to work with. Bottom line, folks, you can manage these projects, you can have the skills, you can do this, and I will teach you how. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. There's a link below where you can ask your questions and get more information about managing land projects for fun and profit. Thanks for listening.